A little bit about Homestead, I'll just start off. Homestead Senior Care is a franchise. It was founded by Lori and Paul Hogan in 1994 in Omaha, Nebraska. They were there working, Grandma lived with them, always made her lunch, pills, would come, go to work, come home, everything was fine. Well, then she quit taking her medications, not eating her lunch, and so they started kind of having private people come over, their church people come over and kind of sit with her, and they thought, oh my gosh, this is something that we need. Medical insurance doesn't pay for it, medical insurance doesn't offer caregivers, so boom, they opened up their first franchise in 1994 in Omaha, Nebraska, and they have over 1,200 franchises now. And we're in 7 countries, so it's kind of big. We were kind of the first founders of in-home care. It's not going to work. Insurance doesn't pay for it, just like McDonald's. When McDonald's came out, who's going to drive through McDonald's and get a hamburger, right? And poof, here it is. And there's many competitors out there. So that's in-home care a little bit, which is non-medical, which I've talked about before, our services, right? But let me talk about all the services that are kind of out there, if you're a senior or not. So there is non-medical home care like we provide. There is in-home health care, which gets confused with non-medical home care. And that is where somebody comes out to your home, of course, and they provide physical therapy, occupational therapy, wound care, speech therapy, things of that nature. And they will come to your home because you're not able to drive to the appointment, right? You get assigned outpatient physical therapy to recover from something if you are able to drive or you have transportation. Then there's also palliative care. A lot of people I don't think know about palliative care. And then of course there's hospice. So let me talk a little bit. So when you go into the hospital, you have to be in the hospital 3 nights in order to have your insurance cover you to go to a skilled building if you have to still recover, right? So skilled buildings are not, oh, it's a skilled facility, oh no. People are in long-term for skilled buildings that they have to have that nursing 24/7, but ours would be short-term, right? You go in and you have physical therapy a few times a day, you have nursing 24/7, and you have that bridge from coming from the hospital before you go home. They call that bridging the gap, right? Well, then when you're leaving from your skilled facility, well, sometimes I deal with seniors and they have spouses that are seniors that might be taking care of them, and sometimes they have a little bit of difficulty of that recovery at home. I also call that bridging the gap. So transitioning home, making sure you're following the doctor's orders, you're taking your pills, you go to your doctor's appointments that are recommended after you get home. Hydration, all of that is key for people to not be readmitted because skilled buildings and hospitalizations are getting dinged now for readmittance for clients. So usually when you come out of a skilled building or the hospital, they usually want you to have 24/7 care. That could be a family member, somebody that's could care for you. So I get calls a lot about 24/7 care, but that comes with a high dollar amount, unfortunately. But we do that temporarily a lot. So again, in-home care would be ordered by your primary doctor or somebody at the skilled building, and then you would go home, you'd have somebody call you, Kaiser, Progressive Home Health, there's so many out there, and you do have a choice of who you get to go with. Kaiser, no, but if Kaiser's impacted, they do subcontract out or contract out to other agencies, and you could choose who you want as long as your insurance covers it. Then, oh my God, sorry, that's a little bit. The good thing about in-home health, of course, when it's ordered by a primary physician, it is covered by your insurance. There's so many days that you're going to have home health, whether you're in a skilled building having one-on-one or when you go home with home health. It depends on how you're doing. My doctor might want me in a skilled facility for rehabilitating for 100 days. Well, if I'm sitting in there for 30 and I'm not cooperating, I'm non-compliant, they have no ability to bill my insurance because I'm not showing progression, so you get discharged. People always go, oh, they're kicking my dad out of skilled facility. Well, there's always a reason why that's happening, and the same thing happens with in-home health. Once you get to a certain level, they kind of discharge, and then you have your plan to follow at home, right? They always give you instructions on what you should be doing 2-3 times a day, right? Because physical therapists come into your home with home health. They might be there for 45 minutes. But with home health, you could also get a nurse that comes out that checks your vitals. You could have the physical therapist, occupational therapist, wound care if you have a wound that needs to be dressed, and speech therapy that could be for speeching, like somebody may be recovering from a stroke, they have paralysis of speaking, or swallowing also is done by the speech therapist. So all those things could be done in home health. Insurance covers that. So palliative care. Is, well, let's go to hospice first. So hospice care is the big H word that everybody's afraid of. So hospice care is also something that has to be referred to by your primary doctor. And then you also have a right to choose your hospice agency. Your doctors might be kind of in with one and say, oh, I want you to go to Green Valley Hospice, or I want you to go to Bristol Hospice. You have a choice to say who you want. Kaiser members, again, you go to Kaiser. And then Kaiser, if they're impacted, again, they are subcontracted out with other hospice agencies. Hospice care is that if you have an ailment, like let's say I had cancer, and I decided not to have any more treatments. So I know I have a terminal illness that I'm gonna pass from eventually, and I'm having no more treatments. I'm just gonna live my life the best I can, quality of life and comfort. That is where hospice helps you out with that. They come into the home, they have a nurse that comes out. You do not have to take hospice medications until you're ready. They can sit in your refrigerator, you can never use them, but it's a little bit more of a nurse coming out, or maybe the hospice doctor's gonna come out. You don't have to go to your doctors anymore. If I think I might have a urinary tract infection, they come to me, they do all of it there, and they will treat me for things like that, because that is comfort care. So a lot of people think that I'm on hospice care, and people take advantage of hospice care maybe the last week of their life because they are bedridden and they're on comfort meds and they're kind of non-responsive, but there's so much more to that. So I always encourage people, yes.
How long can you, I don't mean to interrupt, how long can you be on hospice care?
The initial assessment is 6 months, but then if you are still on hospice care and you got better and you're doing really good and not showing a decline, they can graduate you from hospice, or you can get recertified and you can be on hospice for 2 years. If you keep on having a slow decline, but as long as there's a decline and there's a way that they can bill your insurance, then you can stay on hospice care.
Yeah, because I had a doctor once say to us, just because you're in hospice, it doesn't mean that you're giving up.
Correct.
It's just you don't want to go through the treatment any longer.
Correct.
So which is fine, which I think is an important thing for, somebody that is sick to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you're giving up, it just means that you're not going to do that treatment any longer, and we're going to make things comfortable for you.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people so they call it comfort care now. Hospice doesn't like to call it hospice because people are afraid of that.
Yeah.
But I think educating doctors and stuff like that your primary doctors refer you to hospice, I think the more they're educated on the process of suggesting that in an office also setting would be really helpful for people, recipients of it.
Yeah, and the family too to hear.
Exactly, yeah. And we're down hospice care too. Some of them have musicians that come out and they play music for you. They have some people that come out and do light massages. They have chaplains that come out. They can come out and give you communion maybe on Sundays because you can't get to church anymore. So there's a lot to it, and people just need to take advantage of it, in my opinion. It's a service that a lot of people don't take advantage of. Palliative care.
Quality of life and dignity.
Exactly, thank you, yes. Yeah, Stuart knows, he's in my line of work, so. Palliative care is where somebody is done with home health a lot, but let me rephrase that. You can't have home health, your physical therapist, occupational therapist coming out and have palliative care at the same time. You can't not have home health where you're doing all your physical therapy, wounds, and have hospice at the same time. You have to have one or the other. But palliative care is where you might have that diagnosis of a terminal illness, like I have cancer, but I'm still opting for treatments. So you can have palliative care, and palliative care is like a nurse coming in maybe once or twice a month. It's not a lot. Sometimes they're video chat, but if you have a question about something, you can call them 24/7, just like hospice. You can call them 24/7 if you had a question or you need a nurse to come out. So that's a little bit more of, I'm not ready for hospice yet, but I want a little bit of education or a little bit more of that medical support in the home, then palliative care can be ordered. Palliative care is usually not covered by insurance, So your hospice company will usually do palliative care. So the hospice agencies, which I did not know until about a year ago, will usually absorb that cost because they really want you to be, here you're on palliative care, you understand my company, and then when you're ready for hospice, why are you going to switch? If you had a good experience, right, you're going to come onto my hospice program. So that's kind of how that is done a little bit. How do we pay for things? My gosh. An example of cost of things is that when I started with Homestead in 2007, if I was doing live-in, which would be 24/7 care shared by 2 caregivers, one would do 4 days there, they could sleep at night, they get enough rest to provide quality care the next day, and then another caregiver would come in for 3. So they don't live there, but the client does have live-in 24/7 care. That started at $285 a day. Okay. It is $1,000 a day today. Yeah, because in the industry of state of California in 2016, they said that caregivers had to get paid to sleep, and they had to get paid overtime over 9 hours. So that just kind of made it go up. So it gets a little crazy. So we do a lot of that care, transitional care, right? We do a lot of that for hospice when people need a little bit of hospice support. Because our agency with non-medical care, we're the ones that come in. We'll toilet you in bed if you're bed bound. Do a sponge bath in bed. We do all that. So, and support for the family, of course. Turn somebody every hour so they don't get any skin breakdown. Feed you. Do medication reminders. I can't manage medication, but things of that nature. So, cost of care. So, cost of care, as I just explained, is expensive. But of course, home health, if that is a physical therapist, so that's medical. So, physical therapist, occupational therapist that I said earlier. And outpatient home health, hospice, and palliative are all covered by your insurance. Okay? My care, unfortunately, is not. They are working on that. But I'm also a resource for people. So we are private pay, but somebody might have long-term care insurance. So long-term care insurance would be something that somebody bought. It's a private insurance, just like disability insurance or life insurance. So when you have the long-term care insurance, then if you qualify for the ADLs, there has to be 2 out of the 6 major ADLs that you need because, yes?
What's an ADL?
Thank you. An ADL is called an activity of daily living. So an activity of daily living that you're doing at home, you do activities all day, every day at home, and they want to make sure you're doing that safe and secure so you're not having falls and things of that nature. So those are bathing, dressing, incontinence care, toileting, ambulation and transfer, so walking around and transfers, and then if I have to feed you, but that's hand to mouth.
How many out of 6?
2, usually it's 2.
I had long-term care, and they told me there's 5 things to qualify, and there's 5 items that they have offered me to qualify, but I have to apply for 3 of them.
Okay.
3 out of 5. Is that changed?
It could be if you, usually it's 2. But it could be something that your insurance, who's your insurance carrier?
I think Unum.
Okay, okay. Unum is a little bit different also sometimes too. They actually also sometimes make nurses come out monthly to qualify their recipients. So we can talk later about that because they could be a little extra special on that. But usually 99% is 2. Yeah, so long-term care insurance could assist with helping with in-home care, right? VA benefits, I stress this a lot. If you're a veteran, a lot of my veterans have done all their duty, they might have retired from the service, and then they've retired and they've gone on to work as a postmaster at the post office. So then we retire from the postmaster from the post office, they usually have all their insurance, their pension, all through that, and they don't even think anything about the VA, because they don't think there's any benefit there. And there are some benefits there. Some are qualified benefits and some are not. So qualified means money. Just like Medicare in the year 2024, yay, they do not look at assets for Medi-Cal or for VA benefits anymore. It's all on your monthly income now. So there's always a little bit hidden there. Grants, there's a lot of grants out in the community. A lot of them are for Parkinson's and for memory impairment. So there's Del Oro Caregiver Resource Center grant. There's a Hilarity for Charity grant. Alzheimer's Association has grants, so there's always resources of how you could provide some in-home care to age in place because everybody wants to, of course, be at home. Then you have your medical.